Check your phone dozens of times a day. Most of the time, you do it without thinking. A message, a notification, a small signal that somewhere out there another human being is paying attention to you. And when nothing appears, why does it sometimes feel strangely disappointing? The answer seems obvious. Humans are social creatures. But the real answer is far stranger. Because one of the most important discoveries about loneliness began with an experiment that wasn't really about loneliness at all. It began with a question. What happens when a living creature loses contact with others? For most of human history, loneliness was not considered a major scientific topic. People wrote poems about it. They told stories about it. They feared exile because they understood something instinctively. To be separated from other people was dangerous, very dangerous. Your ancestors survived because they belonged to groups. A lone human on the ancient savanna faced predators, hunger, injury, and uncertainty. A group offered protection. A group offered food. A group offered knowledge collected across generations. So your brain evolved under one simple rule. Stay connected. The need for social connection became so important that it was woven into the deepest layers of human psychology. You can still see traces of it today. Why does rejection hurt? Why do embarrassing memories return years later? Why can a single critical comment linger in your mind longer than 10 compliments? Part of the answer lies in a remarkable experiment conducted by psychologist Harry Harlow during the 20th century. Harlow became famous for studying attachment. He wanted to understand how bonds form between infants and caregivers. Many scientists at the time believed that attachment existed mainly because caregivers provided food. Feed an infant, and attachment follows. Simple, or so it seemed. Harlow suspected something else was happening, something deeper. To test his ideas, he conducted a series of experiments involving infant rhesus monkeys. The results shocked the scientific world. The young monkeys were given surrogate mothers. One was made of wire, the other was covered with soft cloth. Sometimes the wire mother provided food. The cloth mother did not. According to existing theories, the monkeys should have preferred the source of food. Instead, they spent most of their time clinging to the cloth mother. Comfort mattered, connection mattered, safety mattered, even more than food in many situations. The findings transformed psychology, but the story did not end there. Because Harlow later explored a darker question. What happens when social connection disappears entirely? The experiments that followed became deeply controversial. Many researchers today view them as unethical. Yet they revealed something profound about social isolation. The isolated monkeys developed severe behavioral problems. Some became withdrawn. Some struggled to interact normally. Some appeared trapped in patterns of fear and distress that persisted long after isolation ended. The lesson was impossible to ignore. Social connection was not a luxury, it was a biological necessity. Decades later, other scientists began uncovering similar patterns in humans. One of the most influential researchers was John Cacioppo. He spent years studying loneliness, not simply being alone, loneliness, the feeling that meaningful connection is missing. Those are not the same thing. You can sit alone in a quiet room and feel perfectly content. You can also stand in a crowded city, surrounded by thousands of people, and feel profoundly lonely. The difference exists inside your perception, inside your brain. Cacioppo discovered something fascinating. Loneliness changes the way you interpret the world. When people feel lonely, they become more sensitive to potential threats. Their attention shifts. Their brains begin scanning for social danger. A neutral expression may seem unfriendly. An unanswered message may feel like rejection. A delayed response may appear intentional. Why would the brain do this? Because loneliness functions like a warning system. Just as hunger encourages eating and thirst encourages drinking, loneliness may encourage reconnection. The feeling is unpleasant for a reason. It pushes you toward other people, at least in theory. But modern life introduced a complication your ancestors never experienced. For most of history, social opportunities existed within physical communities. Families lived together, neighbors knew each other. Daily survival often required cooperation. Now things are different. You can communicate with someone across the planet instantly. You can scroll through thousands of faces in minutes. You can consume endless streams of information generated by millions of strangers. And yet loneliness has become increasingly common. How is that possible? The answer may lie in the difference between contact and connection. Your brain did not evolve for follower counts. It did not evolve for likes. It did not evolve for endless digital audiences. It evolved for relationships, for trust, for shared experiences, for people whose presence carried real meaning. This is where another famous study enters the story.
The Harvard study of adult development began in 1938. It became one of the longest-running studies in history. Researchers followed participants across decades. They tracked health. They tracked careers. They tracked happiness. They tracked relationships. What predicted well-being most consistently? Money helped to a point. Success mattered in certain ways. Physical health was important. But strong relationships repeatedly emerged as one of the most powerful predictors of long-term happiness and life satisfaction. Not perfect relationships, not endless popularity. Meaningful relationships. The distinction matters. Because your brain is surprisingly bad at measuring social fulfillment using numbers. 1,000 weak connections cannot always replace one trusted friend. Hundreds of followers cannot necessarily replace genuine belonging. The ancient systems inside your mind care about quality more than quantity. And those systems are old, very old, long before cities existed, long before agriculture appeared. Humans depended on close social networks. Groups shared food. Groups cared for children. Groups protected vulnerable members. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies often observe extensive cooperation. The individual mattered, but survival often depended on the collective. This shaped human psychology. Your emotions did not appear randomly. They evolved because they solved problems. Fear helps avoid danger. Disgust helps avoid contamination. And loneliness may help avoid social isolation. That does not mean loneliness is pleasant. Far from it. The sensation can be deeply painful. Brain imaging studies suggest that social pain and physical pain share overlapping neural processes. The exact relationship remains complex. But the message is clear. Your brain treats social disconnection seriously, very seriously. That realization changes the way modern life looks. Consider a typical evening. You finish work or school. You return home. You open a device. Hours pass. You consume information from hundreds of people. Yet many of those interactions require almost nothing from you. No vulnerability, no trust, no shared responsibility, no genuine presence. The brain receives signals, but not always the signals it evolved to expect. This creates an unusual situation. You can feel socially saturated and socially hungry at the same time. Connected and disconnected, visible and unseen, surrounded and alone. The contradiction seems strange, until you remember that your brain was designed for a very different world, a world of small groups, a world where faces were familiar, a world where